welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be painting cherry blossoms, so let's get started. Here are the brushes that I'll be using for this painting, and these are the paints: cadmium yellow, crimson red, ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and titanium white. I'm going to be painting on an 8 by 10 sized canvas. Start out with a smaller brush and a little bit of burnt umber, and we're going to paint in where our branches are going to be. Alright, let's add in a little ultramarine blue. We're going to mix that with burnt umber and the titanium white to get a nice gray color. And then we're going to cover the white portion of the canvas with this, and feel free to add a good amount of water to this since it's going to be the under part of the painting. Don't worry if the gray that you have is not totally uniform. Some parts can be more blue than others, and you can build on this background, adding white to it and adding more gray until you're happy with the way the background looks. Now we're going to get started on the blossoms. So I have here some of that crimson red, and I've mixed in just a tiny bit of the ultramarine blue. And in the shadows we're going to do that ultramarine blue with crimson red and a little titanium white. But basically all of these blossoms are just building on each other. So some of them are still closed. When they're closed, they are typically a darker pink color. And as they open, they get lighter, and towards the tips, more white. All right, for these next brush strokes, I'm just going to do them really loose, really soft, with a good amount of ultramarine blue in the mix, so that they're a little bit darker and not too much white, to kind of show that they're in the background there. Now we can go ahead and redefine the branches with a little bit more burnt umber, and we will add a little titanium white to the tops to show the highlights of the branches. Okay, now we're going to add in some green, and I didn't include this in the list of colors because I just didn't want to have one more color, but I'm using sap green, but you can mix together your cad yellow with ultramarine blue to get a good green. And we're going to focus putting that green near where the unopened buds are. And the blossoms that are partially opened, I use a mixture of ultramarine blue and crimson red to kind of sketch out the bottom layer, the dark layer, and then I go over that and I just add in the highlights for where the tips of the petals are with a lighter pink color. And we'll do that on the open blossoms as well, so just go ahead and add in lots of titanium white and focus on where you see the highlights and the tips of the petals mainly, and we're going to go ahead and go around and add highlights to all the blossoms that we've done so far. If you remember back on the Mother's Day rose that I did a couple of episodes back, it was a very similar thing. We started with a darker color, a darker pink, and then we went in towards the end with more titanium white and just highlighted out the very tips of the petals to allow the imagination to see where those petals are. You don't actually have to paint the entire petal, but just showing where the tips are will allow us to know exactly where that petal ends, and we can kind of imagine where the petal continues down. All right, I'm going to go through and redefine some of those areas with the green again. But I'm not going to add in very big leaves because This tree still has unopened blossoms, which means it's not at that stage in its cycle to have leaves yet. Maybe just some little tiny ones. Now we're going to go ahead and put in the middle part of the flowers. I'm going to show you how to do that. It's very, very easy. We're going to take some yellow. You can mix your yellow with a little burnt umber and just add some dots right into the center there. Actually, in some of them I would add just a tiny bit of green first, and then I would add in a little bit of white mixed with yellow and a little bit of yellow mixed with burnt umber. But that portion that's the stamen, the filament part you can't see because it's so thin and it's also white. And so the only real part that we are showing is the anther part, which is where the pollen is. So we're just kind of putting in dots and showing where the middle of those flowers are. I always end up changing something right after I sign my artwork. So I'm just going in and adding a few more highlights. And now we're done. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.